Hi, this is Billie Beene here with another segment of Truth by Billie Beene. Today's date, December 13, 2022. New. This is my third YouTube channel. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share on YouTube and Rumble. Episode 479. U.S. OK strikes inside Russia, Brazil, Coup, and Siberia-Bio 3. Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot subscribers, Israeli News Live, Cliff High, Gene Decode, Mike from around the world, Pastor Paul Begley, TFIGlobal, Dr. William Mount, Moon of Alabama, Dreesen Report, Daily Mail, Hal Turner, Steve Quill, Strange Sounds, News Punch, Economic Collapse, 21st Century Wire, Plus. So let's get started. Okay, I have a Patriot subscriber who says the three daughters of H who became European leaders, Angela Merkel, and in England it was Theresa May, and there was a third one in Lithuania. Now, I have this from Suspicious Observers, and I submit that we have a lot of factors going on that are weighing in this special military operation that's going on in Ukraine that's really of global consequence, and that is factoring in the push by the shadow US and the shadow NATO to get World War III going. One of those factors, I believe, has to do with a solar space event, things going on. Israeli News Live, Stephen Ben-Nun, formerly with the CIA, now as a ministry, and regularly gets updates from the Pentagon, had said a few months ago that we do have something going on in space that's impacting our solar system, and by December we would be seeing the effects, and we are. And one of them is Suspicious Observers, which is a science-based space weather YouTube site, is talking about in February we had a minor solar flare, but it resulted in some geomagnetic effects on the Earth, which takes down certain communication satellites. It did take down some satellites. Now in December, just a few days ago, we had another one that has also impacted satellites. And Ben Davidson with Suspicious Observers is saying these are minor things that are going on, but the reason they're impacting our satellites and communications on the Earth is because the electromagnetic shield around the Earth has been weakening, and that's true for decades. So I submit we have certain factors going on. One of them is space weather that's impacting the Earth. Another one, I believe, is economics that's going on a global basis because the deep state likes to make money from war. Okay. So TFIGlobal is bringing this out. Yeah, in Europe. Yep. We've seen these so-called leaders of the European Union and nations cooperating with the sanctions against Russia, and I demonstrated in another video some months ago my thinking on that. It was all set up to force the European nations to bring these sanctions against Russia, cut off the Europe's supply of energy, and then that would result in, certainly this winter, European children starving to death and freezing to death. And that was an objective of the deep state, to destroy the economies of both the US and Europe, because they want it all. All right. So we have European nations now closing their borders to the Ukraine refugees. And since these attacks on the infrastructure of Russia prompted Russia then to attack the infrastructure inside Ukraine, more and more refugees are pouring out. But the European nations, because of the unwise decisions of their leaders, can't, they have increasing prices for food and little energy. They can't take in the refugees. Humanitarian crisis. Okay, we have this, that in France, the parliament wants to increase money to heat the parliament, while the citizens of France this winter likely are going to be having rolling blackouts. This comes from 21st Century Wire. Now we have from Economic Collapse site, Wall Street, is warning. And I've been reporting on this, as has my sources were Judy Byington, Hal Turner Plus. In August, we had major retailers like Walmart, Plus, Kohl's, Target, canceling billions of dollars of orders. And we had UPS and FedEx going down and laying off drivers right now. Oh yeah, I'd like to comment that recent kidnapping by a little girl, supposedly by a FedEx driver. I had brought out that FedEx was laying off their drivers just a few weeks ago, and that it was very likely those FedEx trucks were going to be used by the shadow U.S. government, the shadow CIA. I submit that FedEx driver who supposedly kidnapped that little girl was one of these shadow CIA operatives using the FedEx trucks. That's my thinking. Okay, so we have that. The economy going down, and it was known it was going to go down by the deep state, who owns the Fortune 500 companies, in August. So now we have other things. Amazon was to lay off. We heard 100,000 in August. Now it's up to 200,000. Jeep Cherokee in northern Illinois is going to lay off over 1,000 workers soon. Costco's laying off 1,800. So yeah, this is going on. And it's projected the job loss in 2023 will be over 2 million in the U.S. So I submit there's an economic factor also going on. And we know that the deep state is desperately trying to steal all the money in the bank accounts of U.S. citizens and put us into a digital banking system correlated with our social score. That's not going to come to be in the United States, because look what's happening in Brazil. We've just had a coup that was brought on by the people plus the military, the military has accepted as their commander-in-chief Bolsonaro in Brazil. They're not allowing Lula to take over the military. And what the military is doing inside Brazil, they're telling the people, stock up for 2 to 4 weeks, and then we're going into an emergency alert system, a lockdown. And then the military is freely going to be going through Brazil with orders to shoot to kill certain individuals, including the shadow U.S. CIA, the CCP, the deep state operatives, and others. Brazil military has closed down the borders of Brazil. They're not allowing the certain individuals to escape. And another reason the military is involved is that inside Ukraine, they're going to be doing strikes inside Russia, but that was to bring about a release of certain pathogens from the biolabs and weapons of mass destruction by the shadow US and the shadow NATO. All right, and we have this. Turkey, backed by Russia, is going into Syria to take out the shadow US CIA that's backing terrorist groups. They have safe houses for the terrorist groups. They also have pathogens and weapons of mass destruction. So that's going on. We had this. We had Saudi Arabia just a couple of days ago meet with President Xi of China and sign agreements for China and the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, to coordinate their oil and gas and to be a part of the BRICS economic system and not to accept US dollars. Now we have this. Ben-Nun had brought out a couple of months ago that the next pathogen is likely going to come from Siberia, the Arctic, or Antarctica. Dr. William Mount had some information that the shadow U.S. government and the shadow NATO had samples of viruses that were very old from Siberia, Arctic, and Antarctica, and they brought them to the U.S. 2014 to 2017 to be worked on in the biolabs inside the United States to develop viruses that would target specific genetic groups. Oh, and we know now that there are electronic devices that can look at, they do a lot more than face recognition. They can bounce it off and determine what is your DNA and your genetic makeup. Okay, we have this from News Punch that in Brazil, yeah, the military is now locking down. They're going into martial law and they're arresting corrupt Lula officials. And the military was operating under Brazil law, Article 142, that allows the military to enter in, take control of the nation when there is conflict between branches of the Brazil government. And they're also arresting in Brazil federal level judges who are also communist. They're going into Rio de Janeiro. They're killing top leaders of drug cartels, the Red Commandos, who are supporting the communist Lula. And the Brazilian troops are on the border and they're closing their border to Venezuela. And now we have this. Who was it who was quick to congratulate Lula? French President Macron, who we know is a double. Canadian leader Justin Trudeau, we know as a leader. And a Jacinta Ardern, all of whom are WEFs, World Economic Forum deep state members. And we had the actor clone JB of the shadow US government bringing this out, that bragging that the shadow US CIA had been involved in rigging the E in Brazil for Lula. So yeah, but we know also things are going on. All right, so we have this. Steve Quayle from Hal Turner. He has a news program and had been with the FBI for about 15 years. Okay. Yes, and we know this from multiple sources and recent reports that weapons, this is both for the shadow US, the shadow NATO, their levels are going down. They have depleted their stockpiles, so they can't defend their own nations. But hey, that was part of the deep state plan. Yeah, we want to destroy all nations. All right. So that's going on now. So they're saying February 22, that's when the special military operation began in Ukraine. They sent in tens of thousands of weapons and ammo. And now, November 26, a New York Times report, 2/3 of NATO are out of weapons. And we had in May, the JB actor clone made a visit to Lockheed Martin, who said it's going to take 4 to 5 years of production to replenish the U.S. ammo and missile stockpile. So that's going on. And now we have this. Yeah, what's going on inside Ukraine? Here we go. We have, here's Ukraine, here's Russia, here's Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson, Odessa. Here's Belarus, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Kaliningrad, a Russian enclave, Poland, Romania. Okay, so we have this. Russia has captured an area close to the Dnieper River. And we have also this report, this is on Hal Turner from sources inside Ukraine, that the Ukraine soldiers are talking against Z and saying that Z needs to hide because if they get to Kiev, well then, apparently they're not supporting Z, the Ukraine military. Okay, in some areas. Now, in Bakhmut, so we have Bakhmut right here. That's been a location of heavy fighting, and we understand from Gene to Code that there are underground, deep underground tunnels that go from Bakhmut, and they go to Jerusalem, and I think Italy, plus other locations. So this is one reason the Ukraine, the shadow NATO, the shadow US was doing all this heavy fighting here to protect that area. Now we understand that from Hal Turner, inside Bakhmut in the residential areas, Russia is doing hand-to-hand fighting on a street-to-street basis, and that Russia has captured Ugalar and Marinka. Okay, we have Moon of Alabama. He's a retired German military officer, talking about that recent attack that went on inside Russia at Saratov, Ingalls Air Force Base, which this is close to Mongolia, China, Japan. I submitted was perpetrated by the shadow U.S. government. Now, this information from Moon of Alabama is that there were drones inside Ukraine who had a 1,000 kilometer range and that they could go underneath radar. But there are other sources saying that this attack on Ingalls Russian Air Force Base likely came from this direction. So that would be the shadow U.S. government. Now we have A Christeferou. He's a journalist in Greece saying the U.S. and other NATO nations are down on their weapon supply, and that as recently as December 7, but now in December, Blinken had said December 7, oh, we're not going to allow those HIMARS to be used for long-range shooting into Russia. December 7. December 12, Blinken says, oh, it's okay to use U.S. HIMARS to use them long range, to fire inside Russia. And we know from previous reporting I've done and multiple sources that it isn't the Ukraine military inside Ukraine who's firing the HIMARS, but rather the U.S. military advisors, because the U.S. military will not give the software codes to the Ukraine military to operate the HIMARS. Now, we have this from Jacob Dreesen, a retired Army military analyst. Yeah, so the U.S. Currently inside Ukraine is using the HIMARS to attack civilian locations. They did one recently, I think it was right about here. They attacked a restaurant in Melitopol to take out a government leader in this small town, Zaporizhzhia. He was celebrating his birthday at a restaurant. They used 6 U.S. HIMARS to hit a restaurant here. Most of them were taken down by the air defense. They missed the government leader. They killed 2 civilians and injured 6. And they, now, this is interesting. Ukraine has orders from the U.S. that they cannot fire inside the pre-2014 border. Now, the pre-2014 border would be this one. So what the U.S. shadow military government and the shadow NATO is acknowledging is that this is technically part of Russia now. All right. So we have this in summation. I believe, yeah, the shadow U.S., the shadow NATO. Multiple factors. We have this space event happening. We have the economic situation, global. The deep state is being pushed by other nations around the world who are not accepting the U.S. dollar. And so now they're going to push igniting a World War III by using long-range missiles and firing inside Russia. And let's not forget that recent video I brought out about the Galicia plan. And that was this part used to belong to Poland. And the secret NATO plan is, okay, Ukraine, Zelensky in secret gives this part back to Poland. Poland goes in here. Russia attacks. And NATO, the shadow NATO, invokes Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all. Let's kick off World War III. So, I think it's good to remember who's in charge, and that would be God, and He is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.